Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Sugar Muse, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make apple cider donuts. So here's my dry ingredients. I'm using regular all-purpose flour, some whole wheat flour, some sugar, some dark brown sugar, baking powder and baking soda, some salt, some cinnamon and some nutmeg. And I'm going to whisk those together. Just get it mixed in there really well. Now I did not get the footage of me reducing down my apple cider, but you will see it here in a moment. I do have my liquid ingredients, which is reduced apple cider, half a cup of apple butter, a quarter cup of buttermilk or yogurt, whichever you have, some melted butter, and some eggs. Now what I did with the apple cider was I cooked it for as long as it took to get it from being 3 cups to a half a cup. Yes, 3 to a half, that's the reduction, apple cider reduction. So my wet ingredients go into the mixture, and I'm just going to give this a good mix with my spatula. You don't have to treat this the way you would cake mix and, be gentle with it. And, oh, I can't stir it too much or it'll toughen up. No, you're going to have to put a little bit of elbow grease into this. So we just want to get this mixed and incorporated together well. Now you can do this the night before, because the dough is going to have to rest in the fridge, and that's going to help it make it a little bit easier to work with. So if you want to do this the night before and just let it rest in the fridge overnight, that is also an option. If you want to do it the morning before and just maybe make them in the afternoon or later in the morning, that's also a good idea. So here I'm just going to flour my parchment paper. Just regular all-purpose flour. Be generous with it. I know it looks like a lot, but I mean, you really don't want it to stick, because then you'll have a lot of other problems on your hands. So I'm just going to spread my apple cider donut dough onto my floured parchment, and you just want to flatten it out into as rectangular a rectangle as you can get it. So I'm going to put a little flour in my hands and on top of the dough, and we're just going to press that out. You want it to be about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick. You don't want it too thin, but you also don't want it too thick. So I would say shoot for 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thickness. Make sure it does not stick to my plastic wrap, or I suppose you could use another sheet of parchment over this and wrap it up, but I did use plastic wrap. If you have that nifty beeswax wrap, this would also be a good time to use it to cut back on your plastic usage. So here I have my cold dough, and I'm just going to sprinkle it with more flour. Yes, I know I said it looks like a lot of flour, but you just got to do it. So I'm going to flour my cutter so that it is less likely to stick. And I'm going to cut out my donuts. Now I'm going to cut out as many as I can get with my cutter. If you don't have a cutter, you can also use cookie cutters and just use like maybe an icing tip to cut out the little circle in the middle. You could even cut different shapes. You can cut it into squares and then just cut the circle out of the middle with the icing cutter, and that way you don't have to re-roll your dough. You use what you have. It doesn't have to be a special donut cutter. Just use what you have to achieve the effect. And so I happen to have a donut cutter. But depending on the size of the donuts, it may or may not work for me. So if I want smaller ones, I do have to use my cookie cutters. Biscuit cutters, those also work. A glass works. So I'm just going to take my dough out here so that I can get it to stick a little bit less. It was kind of clinging to the parchment. So what I'm going to do here is continue cutting. And then once I've cut out as many as I can fit on this amount, I'm going to re-roll my dough. I'm just going to patch it back together gently and make it wide enough so that I could cut more donuts out of it. Kind of like when you make biscuits and you get down to those last little bits and you gotta re-roll them so that you could get more biscuits out. Same thing. See, press it out again. And as you can see, I'm keeping my little donut holes to the side because those are edible as well. They don't have to be shaped like a donut to be a donut. So here I'm checking the temperature of my oil, and if you notice, I got it entirely too hot. So I just added some cold oil to it to bring the temperature down. Now in this batch of donuts, I did fry it at a temperature that's a little higher than I like to work with. It for me was running in the 370, 380 range, and I actually like to have it down between 350 and 360. And you'll see here that it was a little too high. And it got my donut a little toastier than I wanted. Before the inside was done, the outside was pretty much burnt. So you want to keep your temperature manageable. You want to keep it between, I say 350 and 375, no higher and no lower. So that way you can have the outside cooked by the time, the inside cooked by the time the outside is nice and golden brown, so that you don't get a very dark outside and a raw inside. That is not pleasant. So I am frying a test donut so I can gauge my temperature. You don't want to ruin a whole batch, so we're gonna do our little donut holes in the test donut so that way we know what we're doing. So when we go ahead and pop those other large donuts in there, we already have everything worked out, all the kinks worked out. Now, be very careful. You are working with extremely hot grease. I would not recommend that the kids participate in this part. So I'm just going to test my donut, and what you're looking for is a temperature between 190 and 200, about the same as you would get when you make a cake. Since these are cake donuts, that's the internal temperature of the donut. So that's what I was testing for to see if it was done. I suppose if you don't have a thermometer, you could use a toothpick. Stick the toothpick in and see if it comes out clean. I have not tried this method, but if it works for cakes, I don't see why not. See, it's just still delicious, just a little bit dark. So we're just going to cook these donuts until they are done on the inside so that we can glaze them or roll them in cinnamon sugar or eat them completely naked. It's up to you, however you want to do it, but I will show you how to coat them for maximum eating pleasure. So we're just going to drain these on the paper towel. So I'm mixing. Now you do want to do this before the donuts are completely done, so that you can get the donuts rolled in the sugar while they're still pretty hot, because that's what helps the sugar stick, is when the donuts are hot. So here is my powdered sugar, my vanilla, and my milk for the glazed donuts. Now I must say I liked the ones that were rolled in sugar a lot better than the ones that were glazed, but everyone has a preference, so it's up to you. I just want to give you as many alternatives as you can have. So I'm just going to mix this until I get it to the consistency I want. If it's too thin for your liking, then you can add a smidge more powdered sugar. If it's too thick for your liking, you can add a smidge more milk. You just want to get it as thick or thin as you like for your batch of donuts. Now, since these are cake donuts, they do include just a smidge more sugar than yeasted donuts, so you probably don't need as thick of a glaze. But if you have a really strong sweet tooth, then, you know, slather it on. So now that is smooth, lump free, You could even put cinnamon in this if you want. It's up to you. I didn't put any in this batch, but it would totally work. So now I'm going to shake my pretty hot donuts in my granulated cinnamon sugar mixture. That's going to give it a nice crunchy coating on the outside. So yummy. Go, sugar donuts. And now for the glaze coating. Those donuts look well done. But they were very tasty, so just let the excess glaze drip off. And you could even put this on like a rack instead of just directly onto the plate. I just put mine on the plate and let the glaze set, let the donuts cool completely before you eat them. Unless you like, you know, hot from the fryer cake donuts. But I let mine cool. And there's the finished product. And let me know if you make these in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe below. See you soon.